Hello, everybody. It's Lark,
And Kimberly.
and today is auto asphyxiation. Well, it's every week, every Monday. And we were talking about a lot of topics, and today we're talking about one of our favorite topics. I know it's one of your favorite topics, people listening. Accelerationism, and not only accelerationism, but how it is inherently sexist um, in so many ways. But I think the first thing we should do is we should describe, kind of like talk about what accelerationism is. And so, what I'm going to say right now is that a lot of people will point to Marx in regards to this, but I'll say this: a lot of people misapply Marx, misinterpret Marx. So just because I'm saying this is where a lot of people got it from doesn't mean that it's like that. This was his idea, because we're going to go into that. We're going to go into what it is or how people interpret it and how it ends up manifesting itself. So some people say that accelerationist thought was in the writings of Karl Marx, who argued in the Communist Manifesto that frantic intensification of capitalism would ultimately prompt its own demise via revolution. So that is kind of like the whole idea. And then Nietzsche, they also said, had a call to like accelerate the process. But we don't really necessarily know if that's what it means to everybody in their head. Okay, we don't know if that's what it means to everybody in their head. Like, because the thing is that it's it's a kind of it's not a loose definition, but it is a kind of a okay. There's a left wing of accelerationism and there's a right wing of accelerationism, but both of them, the whole thing is like, do not do anything to give people a break, because if they have a break, then it won't be a revolution and we can't start over. Is that do you is that was Kimberly, like, is that describing it, or like, do you want to add something or
I think that describes it. And I think, the thank you very much for the reference material. But I think also I think we really need to you mentioned somebody, Nick Lane in the
mm-hmm,
reference material, who was a right-wing accelerationist.
mm-hmm,
And talked about accelerationism of capitalism to authoritarianism.
mm-hmm,
So that's, I mean, I feel like accelerationism is inherently authoritarian and inherently moves towards fascism, because there is no social safety net. It
mm-hmm,
removes the social safety net. It is the way that I think of it is like, I'm a nurse. So like if I came across a person who was bleeding out all over the place, the first thing that I would do is not ask them what their name is or for their ID or if they have any medical allergies, even. The first thing that I would do is put pressure and stop the bleeding,
mm-hmm.
because you're not going to be able to save the person if you don't stop the bleeding. And
Yes.
I feel like accelerationism is just allowing a person to bleed out, um, without trying to stop the flow of blood, without trying to actually save that person. And the person that I'm talking about, of course, is society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, this is very true. I mean, here's the thing, whether they say they're left or right, it always kind of ends up being kind of right wingy. That's, I guess, that's kind of like that is kind of this is kind of our issue. And the thing is, so often, I feel like one of the things I think that kind of bothers me, not kind of bothers me, it bothers me a lot. Where there, to me, I view that women are viewed as property. What if it's like left wing, it's like public property. If it's right wing, it's like private property. But either way, we're both property. And to quote Proudhon, property is theft. And I'm not an object. I'm not an object. And here's the thing: the thing is, I always find very strange about it is when you call people out and you say you're an accelerationist, and they're guys, because they're kind of like, I don't, no basic income, no this, no that, because it's just reformist. And you say, well, you're an accelerationist. No, no, absolutely not. I am not an accelerationist. Oh, why don't you admit what you want? Why do you not admit? Well, because you say things like, well, I want the United States to disappear. I want, people to, we can't be reformist. And what does that even mean?
Yeah. it it's it's so counterintuitive because it's like, like, okay, so you want this the United States to fall as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
But where in your accelerationism, or where in your theory, or where in your belief system are you making social safety nets for the most vulnerable in our society? I'm talking about children in wheelchairs and on ventilators. Like, those are the first to go when the social safety net is pulled out. So it might be reformist, but it's reformist in an empathetic and compassionate way, and making sure that even the most vulnerable are protected and aren't dead by preventable means.
Well, also too, it's so puritanical because it's kind of like in order for us to have change, then we must go through this suffering. And it's like, where did you get that from? Well, we know where people got it from, but it's like, where would you get the idea that in order for us to make change, we have to be in pain? And the thing is, the journey is as important as the destination. To me, the journey is as important as the destination because we all know, say you're kind of going through life, you're going through your relationships, whatever, and you've gone through all these horrible things. It's like, oh, well, this horrible thing made me better. No, this horrible thing gave me, like, PTSD. It didn't make me like a better person. It's not going to make me a more functional person. It makes me a really freaking stressed out person.
It makes me an isolated weirdo with a bad sense of humor. Like,
No, it's true. I mean, that's I think that is one of the problems I have with the whole theory. It's like it's kind of like, okay, I don't think it's secular, but in some ways it is secular. In some ways it is kind of like, and it lends itself to these weird, bizarre, and I don't know if it's even bizarre, but these bizarre groups kind of get together, kind of like, well, we can join with the white supremacists because they want to destroy this system too, and we want to destroy this system. And in the end, who cares how we work out? Because capitalism will be over. But here's the thing to me. Here is the thing about accelerationism that always really boggles my mind. Okay, accelerationism is a political theory, but it's based in kind of like this physics idea. And I'm like, okay, so you're using physics, and now, okay, well, I'm going to use physics to say I don't agree with the result because I want to look at chaos theory, which is also physics. And if we use the whole idea of accelerationism, when capitalism gets destroyed, whenever this revolution happens, the most organized faction is where we're going to go to. Who's the most organized faction right now? Who's president? Who's the
yeah,
president?
who has training camps?
You should see our eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just looking at each other. We're like, yeah, like it's kind of like, okay, we played this game, and I feel that, and here's the thing, is I feel like the journey is as important as the destination. And also, too, I feel that a lot of accelerationism has this idea about the worker and the worker. But in the United States, the worker has so often been an able bodied, cisgendered white man. And so essentially, this is to help the white man worker get to where he needs to be. Um, but in some ways, I feel like it's a trap for him too. It's a trap because I think that I was talking to these older dudes the other day, and, and they were like saying this is going to go back to the 50s, and it's going to be like white men running things. That's going to be horrible, right? They were telling me that, right? They were telling me it's going to be horrible, and they're kind of like, oh, I'm going to feel horrible, like ruling you, I mean, you say it like that. They were actually being cool. They weren't trying to be a jerk, right? And I said, I think what's going to happen, I think you're imagining 1950s in like New York. I think what's happening is like 1890s Dixie, like the South. I don't think I think you think what's going to happen is that you are going to somehow end up ruling me. You don't realize you're going to be on the trolley problem. You're going to be tied up with me. You actually sent me that little thing, and I'm like, you're going to be tied up with me because in Dixie, in the Dixie oligarch, in the Southern oligarch, in the southern part of the United States, it's this idea of liberty of princes. Men do not work. So like to be a full white man, you cannot have a 9 to 5 job. So this whole idea, like going back to the 50s, I wonder, do men understand you're setting yourself up for your own enslavement through this whack job idea of accelerationism? And I'm talking too much, but you can go ahead.
No, but you're absolutely right. It further whittles away the role of a man in society, which is already so narrow as just a provider. It further whittles that away, because if you take women out of the workforce, if you take marginalized people out of the workforce, who is filling the gaps, that and it they are just they're going to be worked to death to be able to put food on the table for those who are no longer allowed to work because we're not going to be allowed to. So it just they don't understand that they're not temporarily inconvenienced millionaires. The
No, they're
millionaires
not.
and the billionaires are the ones who are going to be making all of the rules while the workers rebuild society.
Exactly. And I don't think they understand this. I think I think they're going to be part of the crew of dudes that are like running society. And I'm like, no, you're not going to be part of that. And also just the whole idea of like, oh, we don't want people to have basic income. We don't want people to have health care. We don't want to have a school system. And the thing is that every time they have these ideas, well, a lot of these guys who have this kind of idea, it looks like their journey seems like a lot of labor for me. Like they're like, who's taking care of the kids? I am. Who's cleaning up? I am. Who's cooking the food? I am. You want me? It's like the reason accelerationism. One of the reasons accelerationism really kind of creeps me out is because it looks like a lot of work for me to do things I don't want to do. Go outside, dig in the dirt, pick stuff up in the dirt, cook things. Like educate the children. I don't want to do all that. That's how I set my life up. So I don't have to do that. So you're gonna drag me back to that? Like I'm not doing that.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. And and what's happening right now is accelerationist. If you look at Elon Musk, if you look at his family history, if you look at his maternal grandfather, maternal grandfather was a techno fascist. He is literally like continuing to use Star Wars. He's like the Kylo Ren continuing, and I hate that because I love Kylo Ren. He's continuing the work of Darth Vader in I will finish you what you started. Like, and that's what's happening now. And we see now with the accelerationism that's going on is our national parks don't have anybody to make sure that there's not too much brush around to start wildfires, that we're losing people that help our vulnerable veterans in VA homes and in the federal workforce. Like it's all of these fine details that I don't think anybody really realizes. I certainly didn't realize it.
And it seems like they like it's the whole idea of like, oh, it's good that we have these marginalized people because they can be like the vanguard. Like if we break them down to this certain level, it's like if women have freedom, if and we can even bring it down to black people. If you're a black person has any freedom, then that means that it's going to delay our revolution. We need to break down. Here's the thing. I'm always kind of like with the accelerationism idea. I'm like, why does it have to be all of us have to be down the dirt first? How about you be in the dirt and then your life is a piece of crap and my life can be good until the revolution? Because it seems like it's like the setup is all the rest of us are super suffering while this the real people, which are like the working class, the worker man, the real people, um they get to kind of like direct and kind of like stay. And here's the thing, it's so delusional because again, they what they think is going to happen is not going to happen. The whole idea of, okay, this is all going to collapse, and then I'm going to start some co-op in the middle of the desert somewhere, and I'm going to have a bunch of guns, and I'm going to have like 5 women, and they're going to all have my baby. I mean, it sounds like, okay, it almost it's wild, but I feel like, don't you get that vibe? Like people who are into that, it's like, nah, man, I'm
I
not doing that.
I do get that vibe. And like I have, like, I love dystopian fiction. I love Star Wars, like, I love stuff like that. Like, like if shit goes down, like I will help. I am ready. However, I don't want things to go down. Like, I don't want to see people die in the streets. I don't want to see children starving. Like, I don't, that's what accelerationism brings about. And yeah, you're right. Who's going to repopulate the goddamn planet when all of these people die?
Well,
Like,
here's the thing with Elon Musk. That's what he said. He's like, oh yeah, well, I think this, we're about right. I mean, he's got how many? He's got how many children? Like 13 children and five.
I think we're up to 14.
You have 14 children and five different partners, and it's, and I even call it. I wouldn't even say it's a American nativist, and I don't mean by American nativist, I mean the black and white men who have been here like, three or four generations or more. They have this really bizarre idea of what they think is going to happen, as if it's like it's, and they on the left they feel like, oh, we can manage the people who are believers of the Turner Diaries. We can manage people who are like Birth of a Nation people. We can manage the races. And I'm like, how did that work out for the Republican Party? I mean, not saying the Republican Party wasn't already awful, but how did managing the racist, fascist, authoritarians work out with the Republican Party? After like 1980, they were like, oh, no, the Koch like family, they ran in 1980 under libertarianism and told the truth. They said, we're going to cut the Department of Education, we're going to cut Social Security, we're going to like get rid of the safety nets, we're going to like, they essentially said everything they were going to do, but they realized the people were like the regular people, which actually makes me happy. The regular people were like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. And they were like, oh, so we can't tell the truth. We need to go into the Republican Party and then lie.
And then lie about it.
And then lie about it. And now they're just kind of like, they've created this beast. Okay, let's pretend I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They totally didn't know that was going to happen. And now, and here's the thing. I see guys again, kind of like going, oh yeah, on the left, in the proletariat, in the working class, oh, we could team up with these racists. And no, the racists, they're going to be cool because we're working on this project together. It'll be okay. Literally, no, it's not going to be okay, in my opinion.
No, it never is. No, it never is. And what you were talking about with Elon Musk, with all of his children and everything like that, like, are you aware of the like weird Silicon Valley like natalist community that's there, that like all these like Silicon Valley people are like trying to have a lot of children because they feel that it's their responsibility. Your face, I'm so sorry. They feel it's their responsibility with their better genes to, populate the planet.
My mouth is open and I'm in shock because I totally missed that. I didn't even know that was a thing. You know what? I felt it was a thing, but I didn't know it was an official thing. And I'm kind of like, why do all these people have all these kids? And what's up with this whole trad wife? And what's up with these 5 kids, 6 kids? I mean, here's the sad, I hate getting, you know what? I'm not going to talk about that. But I know people who are part of that who have like 6 kids. I know women who are educated who have children with these kinds of guys that, these supposedly like super educated, super smart, but they're super oppressive to the people that they're going out with. And I view that as part of this whole scene that almost feels horseshoe in nature. Another theory that people are like, that's not a thing, that's not happening. Like, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Like, okay. But the accelerationism, I think the thing that is really disturbing is that they don't seem to have any qualms about people suffering, they seem to think, well, that's good. And even like, I'll even say, in the third party, in this recent election, it was kind of like, oh, good, the United States is going to fail now. I mean, I'm not going to say like which party it was who said that, but it was, I've seen people say these kinds of things, and I'm like, that's a really flippant thing to say when we have a quarter million job losses so far. And now I think actually we're up to 500,000 job losses. We have this situation where they've, cut off people's food stamps, essentially pushing people off of their health care. We are people, and also too, this stress of what is happening, people are dying of like heartbreak, of like stress, of like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make it this next 4 years. And instead of having this sympathy, it's almost like this laughing, like, haha, great, now our plan is in play, and now we're going to all be free. It's just a matter of time.
And these are the same people that couldn't hold their noses and vote for Harris because they were so concerned about genocide in Palestine. But in reality, the genocide that is going to be caused because of the fall of American democracy will be much worse. Just the closure of USAID, which I understand. Look, I understand that it was put in place as like, like a goodwill kind of a thing. And it was like soft kind of relations. I understand all of that. However, it was a structure in place for millions of people to get food, water, healthcare, education. And now it is not there anymore. And a lot of those people are going to die.
And this is horrific. And I think the thing is, and the thing that's so tragic and so upsetting to me, is that I think people were lied to. I don't think that they really understood this crew of people. They're into disruption. So whatever disrupts things, that's what they want to do. So they really don't care about Palestine. They really don't care about what happens to people. This wasn't really like for you. So for some people, it really was about like, oh God, I want to, I care about Palestine. It really was about that. Or it really was, I care about what is going on internationally. I'm anti-war, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a good 50% of people who literally like, this is a good thing to use to disrupt to disrupt and to stop the the reformism that's killing the revolution. Like that to me was the cruelty. If you're going to do that, if that is your objective, at least what you should do is let people know who sign on what you're for, so they can decide on their own, oh, I want to do this, or I don't want to do this. I think that is the thing. That's the abusive part of it. It's like an abusive boyfriend, an abusive partner that's like doesn't tell you like, oh, I'm going to kill us because that's what's good for us. I know you're like, oh, we're going to do a suicide pact, and you're like, I didn't sign up I didn't sign up to kill myself. Well, why? I don't want to do that. And you're like, well, he's like, well, I helped you. I helped you. So now you have to die with me because I helped you. I helped you do that thing. And then literally, this is almost like I feel like with what's going on with the whole accelerationist movement in regards to that. They are kind of like, they feel nothing because they're like, well, you should die with us because we helped you. Remember, we helped you. You didn't want Harris, and I helped you. So now we can die together. Why are you upset now? I mean, I'm not even trying to, like, I'm totally serious.
No, I know that you are. And I think, I think a lot of accelerationists also expect that like people, like everybody is like waiting to be Rick from The Walking Dead. Like they're just going to wake up from a hospital room and find out that the zombies have taken over, pick up a gun and know exactly what to do. But the human nervous system doesn't work that way. You have three main responses. You have fight, flight, or fawn. And most people, when confronted in a very fearful new situation, fawn. They freeze up. And I cannot tell you how many really big, strong white men I have caught passing out because they saw their child getting a cast off or a bandage off. So please do not tell me that these big, strong white men are ready to pick up guns and go to war at a moment's notice because they pass out all the time watching kids get band-aids taken off.
No, and here's the thing. I think that, even that which they want to happen, that's not even going to happen. We won't even get to that point yet. You will be working in the field somewhere, picking cotton, picking corn. I think, like, in a way, some way, I think for them, the whole idea is just the idea that they've signed on to this idea that they were going to be Rick from Walking Dead, and really they're going to be they're going to experience they're going to experience child slavery. That's what they're going to experience. It's like
Yeah.
who no one wanted to sign up for that. They were like, oh, I signed up for to be cool and maybe, like, have a gun and, like, grow some corn. I didn't sign up to be on a field and be whipped and be, like, put in a situation where I'm picking cotton or, serving coffee. Like, the whole thing is that people talk about, oh, people get let into whiteness. People can get kicked out of whiteness. I, I,
Absolutely.
I, I tell people all the time, I'm like, my family was from Louisiana, from New Orleans. We lived there for 5 generations. The reason why we had to leave is because my mother's side of the family, they were viewed as colored, and colored people have more rights than black people. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's what it was. And then after the post Reconstruction, they're like, oh no, you're all black. So this whole, like, being thrown out of your privilege, it can happen. It's happened before, and it's kind of like now that they even, like, and I think this is something that maybe this is the key to getting men off of this. Like, you're not gonna be Rick. You're gonna be a slave. How
Yeah,
about that?
like you're not going to be Thanos snapping your fingers and half the universe turns into dust. You're going to be the dust. Everybody wants to picture themselves as the main character. We all have a little bit of that main character syndrome. But you have to face reality. Like, the regular working guy, you're still going to be the regular working guy throughout the acceleration and into the reconstruction.
Yes, I mean, yeah, it's true. It's like you're not going to suddenly change your personality. It's like that's not going to happen. And I think that and see, and I'm glad that we were having this conversation, not just about the fact that it's about sexism, it's about racism, but it's also about, hey, white guys, solidarity, because you're going down too. They're literally using you in this project to help push this along, and then they're going to turn on you. They're literally, these rich dudes are going to turn on you, like the people in Kentucky got turned on. They're like, I voted for Trump, and it's kind of like they're like, oh, but these accelerationist techno dudes, they're different. They're not going to be like, I'm like, not going to be like Elon, because isn't Elon
Yeah.
what do you mean? That's exactly what's going to happen to you. They actually tell you what they're going to do to you. They're eugenicists. If you don't have a high IQ, if you didn't have, like, really great grades, you're not some tech guy, they don't want you reproducing. They're going to throw you. Oh, they're going to throw you in the trash after you've helped them destroy us.
Yes. And I'm not trying to poo poo anybody's job or anything like that, but a lot of these people, you're not laborers. You're working in a cubicle with a button down on, just like everybody else. Really, like, where is the skill set? Like, where's the skill set coming from that you're going to lead us through triumphantly through an accelerationist revolution?
You can't even use your real name on Facebook, but you're gonna you're gonna lead us through the revolution. All right, I'm like, come on now, let's be honest. And I'm like I said, and that's the whole thing. Instead of being accelerationist, and I know this sounds like this is like a big letdown. Instead of being accelerationist, just vote in the midterms. Like, come on, let's just stop this, and stop the ridiculousness. Stop it, please.
Men will literally destroy the entire world rather than go to therapy. Like that's like
Or
what
vote
it
for a
comes down
woman.
to.
Or
Vote for a woman.
Yeah, they'll literally destroy the world rather than vote for a woman. Like, wow. Was it really? Was it? Oh, yeah. You know what? And I'm kind of like, have you had enough? Have you had enough yet? That's all I want to know. Like, have you been tricked enough times? Have you been tricked by the rich enough times? Have you been tricked by the wealthy enough times? How many times you got to do this before you figure it out? And also leave us alone. We're your friends. We're your partners. We're people that some of you have sex with, but yet you keep screwing us over in the bad way. You screw us in the bad way. Don't screw us over. And understand what solidarity means. And solidarity does not mean, and there's, you know what, I should clarify before people get kind of upset with me. Look, if you like farming, that's great. If you like farming and cooking and all that stuff, that's wonderful. But the fact that I have to do it, like that's my job now. Now I'm a farmer lady. Come on, I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm sorry. I keep going back to that because I have this nightmare of me on a farm somewhere, digging up dirt and
but you're absolutely right. Like everybody has like their interest or hobby or their skill that is necessary, in the revolution. And it's not all farming. Like it's not all fighting at the front line. It's not all making posters or doing dishes, but everybody has their skill set. And you don't want to cook, and I support that.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, well, if worst case scenario, don't make me cook, all right? But I think here's the thing: we should know how to do things. Yes, it's important. You should know how to do things. I think we should have some kind of classes on how to do things. But at the same time, we shouldn't give up, because it's like, to me, I don't like the whole idea that we're just giving up now. Like now, it's like there's two things that are going on. One, they're getting people to give up. And number two, there are people who want people to give up so they can do their whole, play their whole accelerationist, revolution game. We know the revolution is not coming, not in that way. The revolution is going to happen, but it's going to be like a authoritarian right-wing revolution, not going to be like a leftist utopian paradise. And plus, too, we're going to have to talk about this utopian vision, because the utopian visions that men come up with are not utopian visions that I want to be part of. So we're gonna need to talk about that. We're gonna also have to have more cats in the utopia.
A lot more cats.
A lot more cats. I don't want to do the Herland, but we're gonna need a lot more cats, because this what you guys got planned. I'm not into that. But with that, do you have anything else to say, Kimberly?
Well, I wanted to just say that, I am kind of an idealist, and I do have like some utopian fantasies in my own self, but at the very basis, it's not pragmatic. And in order to be able to have some kind of, if you want to tear things down, you need to have social safety nets. You need to be able to make space and to make something that saves the most vulnerable of us, or it's worthless. You have proven yourself divorced from empathy and divorced from compassion.
And with that,
that's it.
That's it. That's it. That's all we need to say, because that's what you need to remember. That's what we all need to remember: to care about others. Remember, people are important, the environment's important, animals are important. We're all important. We all matter here. None of us are disposable. None of us are like a distraction. We all deserve to be here, and we all deserve to be cared about. So thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.